Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very first session of today. And we are glad to be here together with an amazing lineup of speakers and together with institutions coming from Creative Europe Media and the DG Connect. And so I'm really happy to be here today for this discussion, which is really crucial in this very time. So we will be exploring the new definition of what does really mean today be an independent producer. So I wish to thank you everyone for joining us. So there will be speakers will be remotely connected, and Carlo Dusi will be our guest moderator for the conversation. So thank you, Carlo, for being so helpful in any case. So you are really smart in this this kind of thing. So and I wish to thank you, Enrico Bufalini and Martin Dawson, and please come on stage, Enrico, for the institutional remarks. So thank you. Enjoy the session.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this panel that is organized by Creative Europe Media Desk Italy, especially the Rome office, in collaboration with MIA Market. From now I'll call it MIA Market, like we call in Italy. Before I go any further, please let me thank again Gaia Tridente and all our staff at MIA Market and all people working at the Creative Europe Media Desk, especially those who stand here tomorrow attending this panel: Maria Cristina, Silvia, Francesca, Sara, Andrea. Obviously, the panelists that will be soon introduced by Carlo. Getting through the goal of this panel, fundamental principles for the promotion of European and independent audiovisual production were initially introduced with the aim of promoting the richness of cultural and linguistic diversity, the preservation of European cultural heritage and circulation in the internal market from the production of the audiovisual industry of the member states by the directive of 89, the 5552 directive of the European Council. Later, it was reaffirmed and expanded by the subsequent intervention of the European legislator. I'm referring to the directive of 2018, the 1808, about audiovisual media services. That status some provisions to protect the promotion of European and independent audiovisual production and introduces certain programming investments obligations in favor of independent producers and audiovisual media services providers. The directive has been transposed, as you know, into legal systems of different European countries, in Italy by the legislative decree number 208 of 8 November 2021, the so-called Testo Unico about audiovisual media services. And the forecasts on European independent production can be found in Articles 52 to 58, in addition to specific obligation under Article 37. But beyond the definitions that all the panelists that will be talking after me will clearly expand and comment. What does it mean being an independent producer? Mainly, it means the possibility to access the public sustain for production and distribution of their works, as good as funding the opportunity to sell the right to audiovisual media service provider. In the last years, we have seen a concentration in the audiovisual market. According to European Audiovisual Observatory, boosted by COVID-19 crisis, there has been mergers and acquisitions growth in the last 5 years, with the top 20 players accounting for around 70% of the top 100 European audiovisual groups by operating revenues. With the top 4 OTT platforms controlling over 70% of subscription, as VOD stands out as the most concentrated audiovisual market segment in Europe. Concentration is the natural consequence of a growing investment in audiovisual market in order to create better quality works for a better competition against US market. On the other hand, European Commission, European countries must regulate this kind of market or not? This is one of the questions. Getting back to Creative Europe, as probably already known, the program will keep supporting the European culture and creative sector in the period 2021-2027. The program builds and continues the structure of the previous programs with three strands: culture, media, and cross-sectoral. In Italy, the Creative Europe is managed by the Ministry of Culture, that is the coordinator, and the media desk is hosted by Cinecittà, the company I work for, that acts on behalf of General Direction for Cinema and Audiovisual of the Ministry of Culture. In the different measures like European co-development or European slate development or TV and online content, the media program status the kind of the requirements for an European independent production. But beyond this this definition and the shareholders' percentage, what does it mean doing or not being an independent producer? What does it mean have a foreign owner? How must an independent producer do to create a better and more valuable works? How must a company be bigger and more solid or create better quality works? To achieve a better and easier way to distribute and promote works without losing creativity and artistic value. Obviously, I have my own opinion, since I work also as head of an independent production company, even if public. But unfortunately, or luckily, my duty is just making the institutional remarks. So I leave the floor to Marty Dawson and to the other speakers for the answers. Enjoy the meeting, and don't forget to join us at the race for a coffee at the end of the works. Enjoy the morning.
Thank you very much, Enrico. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations for coming so early. You made it. So, yes, I'd like to just say a few complimentary remarks following up to Enrico, just to introduce these discussions. Indeed, so I'm Martin Dawson, working on the Creative Europe Media Programme, based in Brussels, working in the European Commission. So I would like to say a few words to recap how this issue of independent producers has been seen traditionally at European level, and then just highlight some questions looking forward, which I'm sure the panel will discuss. Yes, so to recap, independent producers and their productions have traditionally been recognized in Europe as a key part of our audiovisual ecosystem. They are seen as a source of, a rich source of diverse quality European works, reflecting our cultures, reflecting our stories in a unique way. And this special attention to independent producers is reflected at European level in two main ways. First of all, in the Creative Europe Media Programme, where we fund, as Enrico has said, in various ways, we financially support content, European works, and we support independent producers. And we define independent producers as being not controlled by broadcasters or streamers, whether in shareholding or commercial terms. In a nutshell, we don't have much time, but this is a rough summary. The second way is in the European Directive on Audiovisual Media Services, which provides the European regulatory framework for audiovisual services in the European single market, in the common market, and which provides for promotion of European works again. So without going into details, there is a requirement that broadcasters should promote works produced by independent producers. Amongst the other requirements, of course, there is a 50% requirement for broadcasters to broadcast European works, 30% requirement for streamers. But within that, within the broadcast requirement, a 10% indicative requirement for support to independent producers. How is that defined? It's not defined legally, but there are elements that are highlighted in the directive. Again, ownership, who owns the company, who are the main clients, and also retention of intellectual property rights. Those are the main ingredients. And coming down now to the member state level, where of course this concept is embedded, it is defined in different ways. Different member states have different definitions, different, let's say sensitivities, different perspectives. And also within member states, there can be more than one definition of independence, depending on the support instrument, whether it's a tax incentives, whether it's subsidies, whether it's national film funds. So it is quite a complex picture today. When you ask, what is an independent producer? The answer is not so straightforward. And in itself, this can be a concern. This complexity can be a concern in itself, because if you are an investor looking at Europe as a whole, you want to invest on a pan-European basis, this relatively fragmented picture can lead to some uncertainty. Now, in recent years, with the rise of global streaming platforms, the audiovisual sector globally and in Europe has undergone a transformation. You know, if we think back 10, 20 years, how much the audiovisual world has been transformed. We in the European Commission recently published a report looking at these trends, the Media Outlook report. And as Enrico highlighted, one of the findings, which is not new, but I mean, we confirmed that there is a high degree of concentration in the streaming market, with 70% of the SVOD market represented by 3 platforms, I think it is. In this context, we asked producers, we did a survey of producers, of European producers, about their relations with, their contractual relations with streamers. As regards financial risks, the distribution of risks between producers and streamers, as regards IP retention, so the distribution of IP rights, and creative control. We don't have time, but one of the conclusions was that, one of the findings was that there is a perception amongst producers, because we don't have hard data about exactly what contracts, you know, were signed. These are commercial agreements, so we don't have hard data, but there were perceptions of an increasing trend in terms of buyout. So where the streamer retains all the intellectual property rights. So this was up to the period 2021, So following the Outlook report, the European Commission has launched a dialogue with stakeholders, Commissioner Thierry Breton, responsible for the single market, including audiovisual, launched a stakeholder dialogue at the Festival of Cannes in May. And one of the key questions is this issue of IP retention and exploitation. So coming to the panel today, after this rather long introduction, but I thought it was important to recall how we see the complex situation. What is particularly interesting, of course, today is that you are all practitioners on the ground. You are living what it means to be an independent producer. You are working as independent producers. So we have seen in recent years, let's say up to 2021, the so-called streaming wars, increased competition for eyeballs, increased competition for subscriptions, production costs rising, and new opportunities, of course, as well. We have seen market consolidation, as Enrico mentioned, at all levels, including in the production sector, significant market consolidation. And then, in the last 18 months, with the economic downturn, inflation up, interest rates up, no more cheap money, we have seen a certain level of contraction. This was discussed yesterday here in this room with a group of American producers saying that they expect, in fact, they see today contraction and they expect contraction going forward. Lower investments, therefore, in production today and perhaps tomorrow. So in this background, it'd be very interesting, it would be fascinating to hear the panel discuss how you see things, how you see, for example, going right back to the beginning of the issue, what is the link between independent producers and European works and the diversity of European works? How do you ensure this famous diversity, this quality, this uniqueness? Another question, how independent can an audiovisual producer be in practice, given the market realities? There's this kind of David and Goliath concern, when the global streamers are so big, and not only streamers, also broadcasters, in the market, such volatility, such turbulence. How independent can you be financially and therefore creatively? How should, therefore, an independent producer be defined? What would be a helpful definition from your perspective, rather than an unhelpful definition? And also the issue of exploitation, because, of course, if one retains IP, it's with the objective of exploiting the IP. So how do you see that aspect? What are the best strategies in these turbulent times for producers to exploit IT? How do you see the connection to distribution, notably, and distribution where we know a lot of the market value is actually created, and it's a strategic aspect? Well, that's a lot of questions already. I'm sure you have more. So we look forward to a fascinating discussion. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Martin, and thank you, Enrico, for your introductions and for setting the context so clearly for us. Disclaimer from me first, I feel like I'm possibly the worst person to moderate this panel because I run a company set in the UK and I'm also fully owned by ProSieben, the German media group. But do trust me, my European spirit is very strong and I'm delighted to be here in incredibly esteemed company. So starting from my left, Federico Scardamaglia, CEO of Compagnia Leone. Carlotta Calori, co-founder and producer of Indigo Film. Alexander Hersdorf, founder and CEO of Deal Productions. And Nathalie Peru, managing director of Atlantique Productions. And hovering above all of us like a benign presence, we have wonderful Philip Kreuzer from Maze Film, who is dialing in from Budapest from the set of his latest production. I think there's never been a better time to really talk about what it means to be a producer and an independent producer in the current landscape. As Enrico and Martin have mentioned, there have been incredible seismic shifts within the market that we've all been operating within, and every month brings changes in the way that we have to operate. And I do believe personally that producers are the unsung heroes and heroines of this industry. Nobody really knows what they do, and yet without them, nothing ever actually gets made. We sort of have to be a little bit of everything to a little bit of, to everyone within the value chain of developing, producing, and exploiting content. So I would love to start off with our panelists just to ask each one of them, in the context of continuing to remain a successful producer in this ever-changing, fast-moving market, what do you feel the superpower is that you need to have as a producer in order to succeed? And if I can start with you, Federico, and then we'll go along for this first question just to really kick us off properly. I'd love to hear what each of you thinks that special quality is.
Thank you, Carlo.
Microphone?
The special quality you have to to find out is it's the capacity to find out the right IP in the market and propose them to exploit and to produce it. It is the great work of research, mostly.
Hello everybody, and thank you for being here. Your question made me think of a research that I read just before the pandemic, in which, I don't know if the statistics have since changed, in which it was claimed that for every project that gets greenlit, at least 10 projects will never make it. So for me, the most important quality we have is actually to be able to develop these 10 projects, to be able to reach that one project that will actually get greenlit, which takes a lot of skill and a lot of time. I mean, some projects can take, people maybe don't know, 5 or 6 years of development before they, if ever, meet the light. Others are faster. And to do that is a big investment from the producer, from the production company, which maybe sometimes does not get seen because we're only concerned with the projects that actually make it. And there's a lot of work behind that, which is nurturing talent, creating relationships with writers, with directors, scouting books, discovering new talent, new directors, having also, as Enrico said, also understanding maybe what is needed in the market in that time, where it's going, what to propose, finding new languages, nurturing diversity. I think this is the basis of what we do, because content is king. So that is a lot of effort. And so we need to be in a position to be able to do this with freedom and with resources, and then be able to exploit what we manage, to also cover all the risk and the investment that we are undergoing.
That's a lot.
Thank
Alexandra?
you.
Yes, absolutely.
You said it for us all. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we are all entrepreneurs, so we're all risk takers. We have to have visions. We have to really clearly see our objectives, think years in advance. What is the market developing to? We have to have a certain kind of really very developed leadership, because we represent a lot of people. In our company, we have 8 people working for me, so they all have lots of mouths to feed. And yes, and a lot of emotional intelligence. I think that's very key to have as well. But thank you. You said really the main points already. So thanks.
Natalie.
I would add energy, faith,
Yes.
a highly collective mindset, an entrepreneurial spirit. And I think you have to have many resources. And I think, we keep developing multiple skills, whether artistic, management, finance, commercial. It needs, we need to have it all to be able to, push a project after that many years and sit on screen.
Absolutely. And Philip, sorry, I'm looking at you, although you can't see me, looking at you, but...
It's okay, it's okay. I don't see how big you see me, but I think apparently I'm very big, I'm sorry. Anyway,
it's lovely to have you so present.
Everything's been said, actually. I mean, obviously, it's the landscape is changing. I see myself, we're producers, we are, in the introduction, diversity was mentioned. I think Europe is a very attractive market, because we are so diverse, and we've nurtured this diversity with of producers of content because of independent production, because we are the catalysts between the creative and the financial. So what Carlotta said is exactly the main thing. What we need, what we know how to do, and we do well. Especially if we come, the old days, we came from film. We knew how to put things together, and this model now is also is now swapping over into television. So what we really need is network. We need financial capacities. We do need rights, actually, to build a company, be independently, go and get bank financing, which has been, we all know it's getting much harder and more expensive. So if you don't have any assets, it's tough. So rights and definitely also we need the possibility to have a free access to the market when it comes to how, especially when it comes to public broadcasters. Germany, we have a lot of affiliated companies. Obviously, I think free competition and creative competition with companies which are not independent. So.
Thank you. And before we actually get into the issue of what specifically we need the market to do for us, I just wanted to find out from all of you, how have you seen your role actually change and evolve as the market has changed? What is being a producer today? In what ways is it different from being a producer 10 years ago? And what skills have you had to develop in order to move with the market and continue to remain current and on top of it? And really open out to anyone who wants to rescue me out of my silence. Philip?
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you look at this panel 2 or 3 years ago, the big streaming, the bubble, and everything, everyone was saying, okay, we're all gonna be service producer, So we will definitely disappear because we're not needed anymore, because basically we're just executing what other people want, and that has completely changed. I think what we really need to do is, and need to know, is basically how to put things back together. And now if you look at the market, the growth is less important. It's more about cost, and the capacity, the capability for us, which we need to have, is to able to, and which we know is to launch new talent. We know how to do. I think we have to be flexible enough to do things for less. Give talent more creative control. I think that's also something which allows things to be more flexible. I think that's a very great skill you need to have, and you need to be flexible as a business, because in Germany, basically streamers, they haven't stopped production, but they've really. We had 33 miniseries being produced last year. This year we're at 5 or 6. So basically, if you don't have other. If you only develop for streamers, basically it's tough. So basically, the biggest skill that you need, and that's, you can't only rely on doing small art house feature films anymore. If you have some sort of structure, and have to pay people every month, you have to have different legs you stand on. Some people do commercial. We actually do some service productions for American productions, which come in here, which is a good business. It pays the bills. So basically, I think you have to be able really, to be even more entrepreneur than you used to be, basically. Really manage a company and keep the company afloat, and really be flexible to adapt in the market. It's tough, but I think it's also an opportunity, especially if you're a smaller structure and you're independent. Yeah, because we have to use the edge to be a bit more flexibility, which we are.
So definitely more commercial nows and more financial entrepreneurship. On the creative side, how has the relationship with talent, creators changed? Natalie, can I?
Yeah. So I came back to France, to Europe, 2 years ago, and before that, I spent 6 years in the States. And when I came back, I see a total change, like a big ambition, and that was like very, very positive. Because France, before that, was, a lot of very small independent companies. We spent, years, developing concepts, and we had to go to networks to hope that they would help develop a pilot. And so the writers were I mean, it was hard for everyone because, you know, when you're a writer, you want to write scripts, and you couldn't write scripts until you find the right idea with the right concept. And there were a few networks who, you know, were ready to take risks. And I think, you know, because of this big shift now, and my position is very specific. Atlantic Productions is owned by Media One, which is, you know, a large group with many resources, and it's a web of independent companies, small independent, you know, companies, because, you know, every companies are like 2-3 employees, and then we got the support of, you know, finance, legal, marketing. And the position of Atlantic is specific because we do international co-productions, and these are very heavy, you know, projects to put together. It requires a lot of resources. You need to have, you know, open doors. You need legitimacy, and also on the creative side, you need to take a lot of risk. You know, find very, very unique stories, and be able to finance pilots in order to go to commissioners around the world. And I see a big difference because now we have the capacity to really like develop and finance projects that are global, but with a real unicity, diversity, and European, you know, perspective. You know, global doesn't belong to the US market. It's not what we want. We don't want to do, I mean, we want to do local shows, of course, and we want to offer a local perspective to the world, but we want to be able to develop and produce shows that will talk to everyone, talk to not to everyone in every countries, but at least be able to reach globally, but with our uniqueness, with our diversity. And all the projects that I'm developing really foster this multicultural diversity. And I work with Italians, I work with British, I work with Israelis, I work with German writers, and we all bring, you know, we're all together, like with coming from different countries, working on the same project. And we also support like a program like Serialize, you know, to train European writers to work collectively.
Thank you. Carlotta?
Yeah, you asked with respect to 10 years ago, I definitely see there's a lot more opportunity because there are a lot more players on the market that they weren't around. But from our experience, we come from a cinema background, and so there was sort of one classical model we would develop, and for the bigger projects that were a little more ambitious and wanted to cross borders and maybe not just be seen in our home country, we would use the co-production model, which we still try and do for cinema. But I've noticed not only now the costs have gone up so much that we need to also find alternatives and different models, because this model is no longer very sustainable, but there's only so much you can ever get from a co-production from another country. I mean, honestly, we're seeing budgets with respect to even 3-4 years ago that are up by 40%. It's very difficult. So that's definitely a challenge. So we need to be very, very creative and try and find different models. We just did a very big project that we had in Venice that we managed to do by partnering up with 4 different local producers that all chipped in, plus a broadcaster, an international distributor, then a streamer. So we try and fragment it, and so that also in that framework we are still very independent because we've been developing it from the very beginning. The other change has been, for us personally, is opening up to series, because we did not do that, and that was a totally different ball game. Suddenly we had to have an editorial department of 5 or 6 people because it's a different kind of relationship. So that's been very challenging for us, that whole new relationship, and coming to terms also with different models, maybe more common in the American market, and trying to find a dialogue and a way to make them work for us. But always, at least, our focus has always been because we tend to develop on our own to try and defend our vision of the show and our relationship with our talent and obviously it's a dialogue. It's enriching. We did a series last year in which we put together for the first time a streamer and a public Italian broadcaster who hadn't worked together. We had a British distributor. We had a co-producer in Germany, and we managed to negotiate their notes and all their editorial decisions. But we were the showrunners. We were leading it. So in the end, we could keep our vision and our idea. But of course, it's a collaboration. But so that's been very challenging, I must say, with respect to also what we used to do. But yeah, so that.
And picking up on that, can I ask for each of you, and I think we can all see one another as independent in one way or another, leaving aside the ownership criterion, what is the most important aspect, looking at the concept of preserving your independence, what's most valuable for each of you in, when you consider yourself as independent producers, what's the aspect of independence that remains the most important? Is it, editorial control? Is it rights retention? Is it, financial management, financial control? I'd love to just get a sense of what that means to each of your companies specifically.
Yes, Carlo. The most important thing you have to structure is the organization of both finance and both the creative part. And as I speaking about, it's in this moment, I think that the streamers are going to reduce. They are changing from the original. And so the important things for an independent producer is to have a net with other independent producer in media in Europe. Like this is our aim, in order to be, to continue to be independent. But in Italy, there's this matter of a lot of big company, production company was bought by foreign big media group. So my question is if they can be considered independent producer as we are used to be. Like we said, 10 years ago was different. Now, the problem is always, the financing and the structure of financing. And as an independent producer, you have a big issue with this problem and the interest, like we said before. But it's important to keep an aim, to keep an intention, and has a vision about your project.
Thank you. Carlotta?
For me, any definition of independent producer has to take into account 4 things. The first, obviously, is ownership in some way to guarantee an independence. The second is the retention of IP and secondary rights, which is very, very important also for and remuneration for producers in the long term, because if we all have the capability of building a library of then also selling further rights, that's some way of coming back to the investment and the risk that I mentioned earlier.
And creating a sustainable business.
That's important, very important for us. And obviously an editorial independence and creative independence, but that for me is part of the essence of our job.
No, I agree with you 100%. And we are, after all, and I believe I said that before, we are entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, they are building something to have the asset at the end of the day as well. We are not just, as somebody mentioned, service producers. We are really risk takers. We develop these projects from the get-go. We believe in our talent, and we want to be there until the end of the cycle, and with that cycle build new IP and build new talent. And I think that's really what is to be an independent producer, is to be an entrepreneur and not be dependent really 100% on somebody else.
And Natalie, in your experience, that kind of decision-making process, how does that work for you within Atlantic?
For me, like the heart of independence is also like, take risk, pick, the subject that you believe, are really important to be told today, work with the talents that you think are going to be the best person to really carry this project and push it as far as you can in terms of development in order to be able to convince. Because if you have to convince from the very beginning with just a logline, it's going to be super difficult. And the more risky, the more special your project is, then you need to convince more, because as an independent producer, what is important is to bring projects to people that are going to convince them to do something different, and not wait for commissioners to tell you what they're expecting, and in order for you to develop them. And then for that, you need support. You need a lot of support, not only like financial, but also legal. I mean, because if you're gonna sell your show, in many countries, you have to be aware of all the regulations, copyrights. It's tough. So you need a lot of support.
And Philip, any thoughts?
Well, everything has more or less been said already. Yeah, I think what we need in order. I mean, I see myself as independent because I can choose talent I work with, and I can give them as much as I can control as much as I think is right for the project. Retaining rights, as Carlotta said, is key, because we are the ones who take the full financial risk. After all, even if I produce for a broadcaster, we are the ones who have to get the credit line. We are the ones who have to take the production guarantee. I mean, if COVID or any other thing hits us, we're the ones who are really taking the risk. So. And what I also wanted to mention, and what's very important also for the future for us, is transparency. Transparency. I mean, if you retain rights, but you don't, if you don't retain rights, we need to know what how our things perform. Because there's equitable remuneration, for us and also the talents. So, but also for us. So if we can only build, we're entrepreneurs, so we should live of our success. Right. So but we need to know what the success is, and the benefits of the things we produce must be shared, and we need to know what the success is. So I think that's the biggest challenge. That the economic model is designed in a way that it is obviously the capital, which is always taking the majority risk. But I mean, obviously, we are also taking the entrepreneurial risk in any production. So that is shared equitable with rights, and also even if we do a fully commissioned show, if it's very successful, that there's a success. There's a model which provides us to say, if we produce this, and also when we raise financing, we will have this and that in the future, and we're building something. We're building a business case on a future project, and which in one way or the other becomes bankable. As in feature films, it works with sales estimates in a way still. So I think that's the biggest challenge, and I think the initiatives done by the European Union and the Commission with the survey, I think this is very, very helpful. I mean, Germany right now, we are going through the legislative process. There will be a new film law by the end of next year. It was 2 years ago. It was actually impossible to think even about putting in place the investment obligation, with the two elements, which is investment obligation for the for not only platforms but for broadcasters and in general, plus a mechanism to retain the rights, and an indie quota. So because in Germany we do have we have large affiliated companies, obviously, who produce for freely, but also for their own owners, and there's the indie quota is also very key. So I think we're entrepreneurs. We don't want to be protected or we're a dying species and please protect us and give us as much soft money so we can do our productions. No, we are entrepreneurs, but obviously I think there's the European Commission and the Union has been very visionary by allowing in the directive this possibility, and to some extent this regulation will create a market which is essential for us independent producers, to build our economic model.
I think it's also recognizing that investment is not just financial. There's skill set,
Exactly.
time, effort, resources that you bring, which take a whole variety of forms, which an independent producer brings to the table.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember, in the old days in indie finance, really the old days, what was the basic model? It was profits are split 50%. I mean, 50-50 split.
Protect finance
remember?
and the production, absolutely.
Yeah, the filmmakers and the financiers.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was in the old days.
So I want to come back to what the system and the regulations around us are doing to support the independent production sector. But before we do that, I also wanted to come back to what it actually means to be a European producer in this landscape, because the question of what a producer is not just pertinent to Europe. It was really interesting yesterday to see that I think over 2,000 independent producers in the States have petitioned the Alliance for Motion Picture and Television to actually remove themselves from it because they feel that the latest deal concluded between the Alliance and the WGA doesn't reflect the interest of the independent producers, reflect the interests of the studios and the streamers, but not of producers like us who in the States try to create the best content and circulate it widely. So that challenge is clearly a universal one, but what do you see specifically as defining the role of a producer in Europe at the moment? What do you feel are your responsibilities as a European producer? What do you feel your ambition is as a European producer? To anyone that would...
I think we've said it more or less, because the definition, we are a European producer, so I think that's part of it. But definitely, I think with respect maybe to other countries, a system that absolutely protects our diversity and our cultural diversity in Europe, to foster talent as well, new creative talent, to give different voices to all the different countries that we have. That's definitely important, and a system that allows, as we have at least in Italy, total creative freedom to the authors, to the director. There's always this big issue over the final cut. I mean, in our tradition, at the end of the day, the director has the final cut, and I think that's very, very important to safeguard that kind of approach to guarantee independence. And one other thing, in a general framework, I think especially in Europe, where maybe there are, at least in Italy, there are a lot of fragmented, now we're getting bigger conglomerates, but there are a lot of small producers who maybe have great relationships with an author, with a director, but struggle to be able to produce and to be independent. So I think a system needs to be in place to guarantee that big fish don't eat the little fish, and to foster this diversity and this creativity.
Some multiplicity of voices, multiplicity of stories that we can actually bring to the screen. Natalie, Alexandra?
Well, I mean, the other thing as well, I think what's very important is, as Europeans, networking. We have, Alexandra's here with EPC, there's EAVE, and I think all of us together, working, sticking together and exchanging, and seeing where the problems are and trying to solve problems together. So I think that's what we need to do as European producers, so we can
sharing knowledge and sharing best practices and really
help
communicating.
New producers, new talent, to develop as well and think about the future, because it's not just us, it's the next generations after us as well.
Absolutely.
No, I totally second you on that, because if we want to create shows that have a scale, we need to, create this network, this web of European producers, writers, and commissioners, so that it's easier to do production between ourselves, because it requires a lot of collective work, but also we have to align, and join forces at the same time all together. So this is very, very important. Second, I think, if I'm speaking of my role, if just, what are the aims, the goals that I set to myself is bring important stories with the European voice. And for instance, the project that I'm working now is the Pegasus story, the cyberware scandal where you had, when this virus can be inserted in your phone and in your everyday life, and you can be spied on, your camera can be switched on. And this is a story, that was initiated in France and that really expanded around the world, that has a global impact. This kind of important stories that all the European countries have been facing. I think this is our role also, to be able to bring these stories that have a global impact. And then I think the second goal that I try to respect is bring talent, and so that help talent access this international level. This is also this is a tremendous importance if we want to be able to foster the European creativity.
Thank you. Philip?
Yeah, no, I think important for us is, first, as producers, that although we're all in our daily jobs, I think we have to raise the voice, become politically active, work in our countries, and lobby our lawmakers, help them understand what our needs are. I think this is why also the EPC is very important, because coordinating us between Europe on the political level, I think that is achieved a lot. Also on the regulatory level, we've seen also on the digital world, Europe has done things differently, and this is why we have the diversity, and I think that's in that I think we're on a good way. But I guess it's up to each of us, to become associated, be active in the producers associations, and actually raise the voice, especially, and that's not only us producers, but also that's what's been more successful for us. Producers, they hang around everywhere, but if you take a talent with you, politicians are much more happy to meet with the talent, and not only with the producers. So I think we have all the tools, but I think that's just very, very important in these changing times. That we are active in designing our business and our business models in Europe. I think that's the one thing. And the other thing is obviously on the creative level. I've done many co-productions also on television. With three broadcasters, and know how difficult it is. Also here, the European the media program is always one single market, try to encourage the cross-border consumption of content, and I think that's just something which we need to engage, propose stories which can travel, be them very local, and I think there's been a lot done in the last years. Also thanks to the platforms, obviously, the content, the people, the audiences are much more open to watch content from other countries, but it's again, it's our job, and also our opportunity, to propose the talent, to propose their stories, and also take them directly outside, to outside the territory, So I think it's years ago was impossible that a German producer contracts, speaks directly with a French broadcaster. That's not now. It's now that cannot be done. So I think it's also that you try to get out of your old bubble and try to also invent yourself, reinvent yourself, and become more outgoing. Bring Europe even closer together and network.
Absolutely. And with your lobbying hats on, one final question for me, and then I'll open up to see if anyone in the audience has any questions for you. But with your lobbying hats on, is there a specific request that you would like to make to the institutions, either national or European, that would support you in your endeavors? Is there anything that you would like to see change or continue to develop? Federico?
Yes, of course. We're discussing with our association APA and ANICA about the European Union, about a model like it is for cinema, for series in the co-production, and he has to be the more easy way to do it. You can take all the regional, country by country succeed and access, and this is something that they are discussing now. So it's very important, and we're following these things in order to like APC do to networking and net without the independent producer. And I said before, we have to find out exactly who's independent now.
Any other requests, desires, wish list? Philip?
Well, I already said
you have a long list, but yeah.
It's a long list. No, but obviously, I mean, I said it's investment obligation, retaining rights, indie quota. I think also when it comes to investment obligation, we're discussing in Germany now a sub-quota for cinema, that you don't only, the investment obligation means that you don't only, you can buy anything or, buy big TV shows or whatever, but it's also said part of that is that definitely devoted to cinema. I think that's very important. Support mechanisms for young talent productions. I think that's also something which I think that's where we're all coming from, and that's what we all need. That's where we're farming. Yeah, I mean, I think that's for me really the biggest thing, and right now, and public support when it comes to tax credits make production cheaper for everyone, and obviously anyone, also the big studios, American studios who come here, obviously they want our production, to be, they want to reduce their production cost, which on a macroeconomic level is completely understandable and also makes sense for the territories, But I think that's also that the public support system is not only reduced to that, but basically that some of the support mechanisms actually it helps the producer to fill the gap of his own investment, because we all don't have huge pockets to put up into financing, and in New Zealand the tax credit is considered a producer's investment, and there's a
as is in the UK. So yeah,
guaranteed, there's a guaranteed equipment position.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Long list. Sorry.
And in addition to what has been said, you started, Philip, with transparency.
Yeah.
I think this is what we all miss today. Yeah. We want more transparency. We work with talent who also, want to be incentive on the success, because as you said, we all work for success. So about residuals and stuff. So we need to be able, and as producers, we are not able, always to tell them what they're gonna get. And another wish would be that we receive support to train young writers, and bring them in the room.
Thank you. We have a handful of minutes for questions from the audience, if anyone has any. So if you want to ask our panelists anything, now is your chance. Put your hands up. There's one here, if possible. And could you just let us know who you are, and then if your question is just generally for the panel or a specific panelist?
Thank you all very much. This was truly eye-opening, because I've heard changes in views for the production here in Europe. And also there was some mention of other countries and how films and television are produced in other places. As an independent producer, Italian-American, we are currently working on different projects, film and TV. And my question to the group, and I think this might reflect where many people in the audience are, hypothetically, an independent producer who is also a content creator, who has already found what they believe to be a story that needs to be told from a European perspective, and talent has already been identified, possible talents, conversations with individuals for specific roles has already occurred. A trailer has already been prepared. So my question to all the panelists is, in that type of situation, do you suggest our efforts should be placed in speaking with the delivery system, whether it's a major film production facility, streaming platform, and broadcast networks, or should we, in order to obtain credibility, join with larger production companies who may have already established relationships with, for example, Italian television, French television, or major studios?
I'm sorry to cut across, but just because we have one more question and time is very tight, just to sum up, in that context, would you recommend going directly, or would you recommend partnering up with bigger players? I think is the core concept.
Depends on the
hard
project.
to advise without specifics, really, but
And it depends on your project. It totally depends, where have you developed it? Which country are you set? And then, from there, you can think out of the box and put the other puzzle together. But, the thing is, so, what is the project? Or, and where is the major producer? So you say you're Italian-American, so is your production company in Italy? Okay, well then, is it... then, depending on what the budget is, you can look around and what other country would be, the best partners for you. But, it's very difficult to say that, like, just, on spec like that.
I mean, it depends on your resources and track record. Yeah. So, I mean, if you feel that you need support, I strongly recommend, yeah.
There's always strength in numbers. Can I have one more question here? And then I'm not sure how we're doing for time, so...
Dariusz Jablonski, I'm Vice President of European Producers Club, but as well I'm Director, having over 30 years experience in Central and Eastern Europe as a producer. I would like to say that this is exciting panel. It's exciting panel, and all of you are fully aware of the situation at the moment. I would like to add one thing which is very important, and I've heard that, but the rights retention acknowledged by European Commission is extremely important. But why is that? Why we need that? It is not that we are small or we are too weak. It is because we are the only guarantee of freedom of artistic expression. Only independent producers can prove that, because if you see global platforms or even international entities are not able to give a floor to artists who want to give us their voice regarding conflicting issues, like breaking of rule of justice. And in current situation, you know, when right-wing governments won in Slovakia, when I was told 2 days ago that the new government in Finland is cutting all support for audiovisual creativity, you know, this aspect is absolutely crucial for future of Europe. We have to guarantee our talents, the best directors and writers, the floor to give their voice in current situation, and only independent producers can do that. Thank you very much.
So off the back of that statement, thank you. Any closing remarks from any of you?
Yeah, I just want to say that's exactly it. As I said, we are entrepreneurs. We need to have the back ends. We need to have the rights, because these rights, they build our libraries and they give us also a worth. And with that worth, we can raise additional monies as well to fund our developments, where we don't have monies maybe from the diverse European funds, where we can go and support new talent and so on. So yes, rights are key, and back-end transparency as well. Thank you.
This is the real thing, also in Italy, the Italian subsidy tax credit. It's created to capitalize the independent producer company. But we have the situation that it's not the independent producer that can develop and works on his idea with the authors and with everybody. These subsidies are going to capitalize, you know, a foreign big company. So it's the spirit of the things is different.
Thank you. Philip?
Completely agree about the rights. I think what Dario said is also very important, you know, because I mean, obviously we are entrepreneurs, we are in there also for the financial benefits, but obviously we're also part of the European culture, much of that, and support for culture is and film language is definitely a big part of the European culture and travels, you know. So I think that is I heard also about Finland, you know, I heard about good institutes being closed within Europe and Germany. That was decided, you know. So it doesn't only concern film, but so basically in tough times, you know, cultural support is reduced everywhere, and I think it's we're part of that, and we must hold against it, because you know the small festival which launches a talent, which then becomes to direct a big series, you know, that's all part of the ecosystem, and that makes in the end also economical sense. But so it always goes in both ways. So cultural, maintain cultural support, you know, for young filmmakers, film festivals, and film culture in general is key.
Brilliant. Natalie, closing remark?
Thank you to Mia and Creative Media, because this is the kind of initiative, and you know, for bringing us together and creating this web of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I agree with what everybody has said.
I think we close on a very high note. Well, Alexandra?
So in tough times, what people need is culture, and you know, and I think that's our job, you know, to help them to get some more happy thoughts. So we are very, very important.
Here. On that note, please join me in thanking Federico Scardamaglia, Compagnia Leone, Carlotta Calori, Indigo Film, Alexander Hersdorf from Deal Productions, Natalie Peru from Atlantic Productions, and Philip Kreuzer from Maze Pictures. And as we exit, there will be vouchers handed out for coffee sponsored by Creative Media, the European Union, on the rooftop. So please, anyone who can, join us upstairs. And thank you all very much for making it to this first slot of the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Bye.